Hello, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. This week, I wanted to talk about the ideas of covenant and redemption. Creation and redemption. The idea of creation on the one hand, and then redemption on the other. It's really important. We looked at the covenant of redemption on Sunday, and we're going to be seeing throughout this series that really the rest of the covenants that we talk about are the full flowering, the unfolding of this covenant of redemption with all of its implications. But before we do that, I want to step back and look at the relationship between redemption and creation. And this is important because I think a lot of Christians think that redemption has very little to do with creation. God created, that didn't work, and now he's all about redeeming. But actually, the two are intimately married together with one another. And if you understand creation, then you'll understand redemption. Now, this comes out in the biblical text. It's not just my idea for doing that. If you notice in the text, as we were looking on Sunday, the covenant of redemption is actually given in terms of the covenant of creation. It's given in response to our breaking the covenant of creation. God didn't just randomly give a promise of the seed who was going to come and redeem and start this covenant of redemption. It's actually because we broke the covenant of creation. Secondly, it comes out, if you notice, the breaking of the covenant of creation brought implications into every aspect of that covenant. And the curse deals with every aspect of the covenant of creation. The redemption is dealing with the curse that is related back to the covenant of creation. Now, why do I say this? You remember in the covenant of creation, it defined our relationship as humans with creation. Well, of course, in the curse, the fall and the curse, we see that now there's going to be thorns and thistles. We're going to have to work by the sweat of our brow. There's going to be childbearing, but it's going to come forth with pain, and eventually we're going to die and return to the dust. All of these are related intimately to the covenant of creation. It's not something different, it's right back to it. Secondly, the covenant of creation dealt with what it means to be human, our humanity, and how we relate to one another. And there was this community that was to be there, and there was to be fruitful and multiplying. But of course, we read that immediately after the fall, the first thing we read is Adam and Eve realize they're naked, they're ashamed, they cover themselves, they begin hiding from one another. We see when God begins to question Adam, Adam actually turns on Eve and casts the blame on her. God speaks to Eve and says there's going to be this desire for your husband and he's going to come back and rule over you. And this is not a good thing. It's saying that there's going to be conflict in the family. In short, in every area of humanity and our relationship with one another, there is now confusion. There is now confusion over who we are. There's this shame. There's this breakdown. There are these problems. The curse goes right back to the areas of the covenant creation. And then finally, the covenant creation dealt with our relationship with God, and that has now been disrupted. So that when God comes into the garden, Adam and Eve are hiding from God. God now has to question them and to draw things out of them, and they don't want to repent. There is now this difficulty and problem, and of course, we're born now spiritually dead. This is our problem. God had promised death, and long before there's physical death, there is a spiritual death. So in every aspect, the curse goes back to the covenant of creation. But what, of course, that means is when God then promises redemption in the midst of that curse, the redemption is saving us out of the curse that is intimately related back to the covenant creation. And therefore, the promise of redemption that God gives, and don't miss the redemptive heart of God in that, in the midst of having to discipline us and pronounce a curse because of our sin, God promises redemption. God is a God of redemption. But notice that that redemption is not casting aside creation. God didn't start with creation, say we messed it up, and therefore he just abandoned it. The covenant of creation was there. The curse is related back to every aspect of that covenant, and the promise of redemption is related back to every aspect of that covenant as well. It is aiming for nothing less than restoring God's original intent. This is why ideas that Christians have today of it's all going to burn or redemption is about saving men's souls, these are perfect Gnosticism. They have nothing to do with the Bible and with actual biblical Christianity. It's not all about being burned. It's about being renewed and restored, a new heavens and a new earth that God is bringing forth, that Jesus refers to as the regeneration of all things. When you and I are saved, I didn't fall down and die and become a different person. God begins renewing the person that was. And at the final day, I'm not going to exist as a spirit, but rather my body, my own body, is going to be raised from the dead. This is why Job says, even though I die, I know in the end I'm going to see my Redeemer. With these eyes, I'm going to see him. I'm going to see him, not another. There is a continuity that goes on because redemption is answering the curse and pointing us back to the covenant of creation. God has not abandoned the covenant of creation. He has not moved on to a plan B. He is restoring his original intent. He is renewing everything that was done. He's going to regain all of creation. And this is good news for you and me, and it affects everything that's going on in our life. This means that your vocation that you do every day and every week is important. How we approach family, how we approach even the church and what God is trying to do as we gather together with one another, our relationship to God, our responsibilities in the world, all of these are affected by this. Because when we go back and look at that covenant of creation, redemption is not about something different. It's about bringing us back and enabling us to walk in God's original good covenant of creation intents and purposes. So I encourage you to be thinking through this and looking at that and let it give you hope. God is at work, and in the end, our God is going to redeem. He is going to accomplish his design in this creation, and we are blessed as his people to enjoy the fruits of that, and our redemption is part of that. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to gathering for worship again this Sunday. God bless.